Scary video in Israel. Two F-16s nearly hit each other when one's taking off and one's clearing the runway, and it's sporty.
3, 2, 1, flight off.
So a week ago, an Israeli Air Force F-16 almost crashed, and the incident is under investigation. During the incident, Emmanuel Fabian reports that at the Ramat David Air Base in northern Israel, they were taking off for a strike in Lebanon when it identified another fighter jet crossing the runway. It maneuvered out of the way moments before hitting the other plane. There's leaked footage. The IDF says due to the issuance of a wrong takeoff approval by the control tower while another plane was still on the runway, crews responded quickly and professionally in a serious safety incident. So we're going to break down that video. We'll take a look at the left first, the actual HUD tape, and then if there's anything we can see here, we'll look. I've never seen the two-camera setup, though. That's interesting. So for those that don't know, never seen an F-16 HUD before. From left to right, that's your G meter, calibrated airspeed right here. Your pitch ladder, angle of attack staple, flight path marker, your MSL altitude, your radar altitude, so above ground level, essentially. And then so there's some tactical information, your different radios. I have never seen this before, but that is fuel. So interesting. Must be a new block thing, but that's pretty cool. The fuel's up there as well. And that's really all that is pertinent here as we look. And then that's obviously the heading of the runway. So a 290 runway. Runway 29. Let us play. We'll play it once, and then we'll come back and break it down. Oh, geez. So I don't speak Hebrew, but I'm guessing it was holy crap. And then he keys up on the radio, he's aborting, and then he's going to need fire and rescue equipment because of hot brakes. So let's take a look. With 11,000 pounds of fuel, that's two 370-gallon wing tanks, more than likely. And so this is going to be an afterburner takeoff. And I don't know if he's single ship or there's as part of a formation. I'm assuming he'd be part of a formation as well. All right, so he's already talking about it. He's at 159 knots, and he is aborting. And there's the airplane right there that he barely clears. And now it's just an abort. So, hell of a reaction. And he gets back on center line. I mean, great flying. One more time. We'll look at the one on the right now. So you can see him up there. He sees it. And that dude's trying to get out the way too. So they're both kind of... Something similar happened at Nellis, I guess around 10 years ago, maybe less, where two aircraft actually hooked the rails. One didn't clear, but it wasn't like this. And that pilot was really messed up for a long time. So this would have been a very, very bad mishap had it happened. Now, so a little bit of academics. When you fly a fighter, we do what's called takeoff and landing data. And that is all based on your configuration and your weight and what kind of takeoff you're doing. You can either do mill power or afterburner. In a configuration like this, it's more than likely going to be an afterburner takeoff. So the numbers on your lineup card would be your Minixel check speed. So at, I don't remember if it was 2,000 or 1,000. I think it's at 1,000. At 1,000 at the one board, you were checking to make sure that you had the appropriate speed for your configuration, which meant that the engine was producing enough power that the numbers were valid. You would then have a rotation speed. So that number is when you start pulling back on the stick, essentially. And then takeoff speed is about 15 knots. After that is when it's actually going to get airborne. At 160 knots, he was probably just starting to rotate. Again, I don't know what the weights were. I don't know. I'm assuming he had probably, bombs, a couple 500-pounders or whatever. So he was in that window where he was either rotating or about to rotate. And then you have your takeoff distance that you've calculated from those numbers. And then you have your refusal speed. And that refusal speed is the no kidding, hey, I can get to this speed and either stop with the remaining distance on the runway, or if I'm past that, I need to keep going. I'm assuming based on the numbers, because I mean, it can be as high as 189 knots, 190 knots. It's usually like a tire limitation, tire and brakes, that he was below that, and that drove his decision. This happened fast. I would not be surprised if there was some level of temporal distortion. When I had my bird strike on takeoff, I felt like the world slowed down to I was questioning decisions in real time. But you also have a max brake application speed. So the number at which, you can apply the brakes without blowing tires, essentially. But he was well below that and decided to abort, which was the right decision. I mean, if he was, you can't second guess it, right? Because he's right at the worst possible time to be discovering this. Because you're less maneuverable, in that 2-point attitude as you're rotating to take off. Above 120 knots, you'd expect hot brakes. So that would drive talking to fire and rescue personnel. You don't set the parking brake. You taxi to the hot brakes area or declare an emergency and shut down there. And they have to check. They'll put the temperature gun on it because, you might end up, with a brake fire or blowing tires. This is a common thing as far as mishaps go. We've seen this before where, runway's not clear and somebody either gets cleared to land or cleared to take off and it becomes an issue. But it's a high pucker factor video, but I don't know which block they had. If it's the earlier blocks, like the 15s that are upgraded with the midlife upgrade and stuff, those brakes aren't that great. It looks like the brakes are really good, which if you go like block 70 and those are block 40 and above, when you start getting better brakes. So at that point, just full speed brake, applying the brakes as required. If he's got a parachute, you pop the chute and, got the thing stopped. So again, I don't know if the Israeli jets have that, but you can see on the tape, his fastest speed was 160. 160. Now realize there's a reaction time, right? They build in that 3-second reaction time in a lot of these numbers. So he could have seen it as early as like here. And then the reaction time to rip the throttle to idle, the jet's still accelerating in that time where you make that decision. And then now he's turning. But look how close he gets. I mean, if this jet had been any farther over on this side, he's going off-roading and he's probably going to die. He's going to eject. If he hadn't reacted soon enough, hadn't seen it or whatever, it's sometimes it's hard to see something down the runway like that, especially a gray F-16, but this could have been really, really bad. And it looks like it's not like a pure cross, left to right. So it looks like it might have been on the runway and then taken the left there. So, I mean, obviously the controller should have known that, or, either not giving him takeoff clearance or cancel takeoff clearance or whatever. But definitely something that they're going to investigate. Luckily, no one was injured. I don't think there would be much damage for the aircraft because they didn't touch, and you're just talking really hot brakes, and the jet can do that. So he gets it stopped. He stops straight ahead, gets it back on center line, and that's the end of it. So great reaction time, great flying. Be interesting to see what comes out of it. I doubt we really hear anything beyond this, but yeah, things that will give you a high level of pucker factor. Somebody being on the runway, but I saw in the comments, Twitter or something about, hey, what do you think about aborting at 160 knots? Well, it always depends on your takeoff and landing data. There's no like, hey, never abort at 160 knots. It just depends. And I was looking at some old numbers previously and, up to 189 knots, for refusal speed. So I think you can still safely abort, and then max braking application over 200 knots. So as long as you got the runway, depends on how long the runway, obviously, but I don't have any heartburn with that. But good flying, really crazy. But let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching. See you next time.